So today we're going to be talking about neurodivergent productivity because ultimately that's what all business is about. Like management and all of that, that's for increasing productivity. But to do so requires fostering a positive environment. So with neurodivergent individuals, in previous videos, I talked about how I've never met a one without trauma, not a single one. I've heard of them, but that's like hearing of unicorns or leprechauns, right? So let's imagine that the mythical isn't there and that every autistic or ADHD individual has dealt with a significant amount of challenge in their life. Okay. Those challenges, just look up Pavlov's studies and theories. Those challenges build up experiential reference, and that teaches us to behave this way in this environment to achieve this outcome. It's why we mask. Masking allows us to blend in, which achieves a positive outcome with the detriment of being exhausting. Okay. And to do that, like masking, is because there are challenging people out there or people that will create challenges because of their demeanor, reactions, interactions, and so on and so forth. There are bullies out there in the workplace. We've all seen them. You could be one yourself. Hopefully not, because that shouldn't be the case in the workplace. There shouldn't be any unnecessary conflict without amenable resolution. Okay, you work through the process, you say, hey, this challenge and this barrier is here. Let's collectively think of how we can overcome that barrier or challenge. And when it comes to autistic and ADHD individuals, because of the conflict that we've gone through and because being made fun of, and again, I have not personally met one of my kind that have not had difficulties in the workplace. It's why we turn over jobs a lot. Monotony doesn't work for us either, generally, unless we really like what we're doing. So, where does that leave you as a manager? Okay, these people over here have gone through challenges. De escalating the workplace and ensuring a workplace without unnecessary conflict is a great step for us because that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid misunderstandings, presumptions, so on. Okay, there are a lot of things we're trying to avoid, and all of them derive from negative presumption or perception. So we act a little bit weird this way, and that makes us a natural target for bullies. That makes us a natural target to be pushed around because we are conflict averse as a group, as a collective. The majority of us are conflict averse. We don't like conflict. We find it completely unnecessary in the workplace or in our personal lives. Things can be worked out. Which brings us to another point. We are extremely productive. So let's say that you create and foster a environment where if anybody's given them challenges or whatnot, they can come to you, and then all three of you can sit down together and be like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is where the conflict is, and you work out a resolution. Okay. But as long as we have a safe workplace where we can come up with an idea and present it to you, or forward it through email, structure it out and just, you can poke holes in it all you want to. We'll find it. We'll make it better. As long as we have the environment to where we can do that, to where we can find a project, to where we can hone our craft. A healthy environment with healthy communication allows us to breathe and be as productive as possible. And you'll find us being productive, it's not to be underestimated. Pretty much everybody I know that's ADHD or autistic that does well in their marketplace, they did very well. Myself included. I've done some very impressive things in management. Now, a lot of people don't like hearing that. If you say that you have accomplished this, then the comparison begins. Other people comparing themselves to us, not a great thing. Because when it comes to shining, there's always somebody who resents that you can shine so loud. The thing is, we are constantly working that solution to be better at that task, at that job, at that responsibility or obligation. Our modus operandi is perfectionism. That's what we seek. We want balance. We want things to be as efficient as humanly possible, including ourselves. And so we will continue to hone our craft and hone our craft as best as possible. Now, when we have these different distractions, such as we have to mask extra heavily and watch our surroundings and make sure that there's at least a witness at all times around this person over here, that takes extra brain power away from us being able to process through a problem onto a beneficial solution. We're always the overachievers. We will continue to work until we are. And if we find something like a flaw in the system, let's say we can do this process better, even though we've been doing it like this, for 10 years. This is better. We will pitch it to you. Like, we will hunt for those things because we want to make it more efficient. More efficiency means greater balance. Which brings me to my next point, is being overachievers. When we see metrics, the people I've spoken to that are like me, we feel ashamed if we don't meet our goal. Like, as long as it's realistic and achievable, we will feel there will be a sense of internal shame for not accomplishing that goal. And the next cycle through, we will work harder to accomplish that goal. And you will find us very punctual. We don't like to miss deadlines because deadlines are a point of reference. Each deadline is a metric milestone. Milestones are a tool by which we use to measure our progress. And if we fail to achieve a milestone goal, a metric, an obligation, if you will, failing to achieve that is an imbalance to us. We take it personally offensive, myself and the people I've talked to directly about this. Like, I genuinely feel offended when that happens. Like, I can do better. I know I can do better. Wait till next month. I mean, most people like myself that I know personally and have known in the workplace, we have a very can-do attitude. And if we can't do it right now, what are the barriers so that we can figure out how to overcome those? Again, modus operandi. We are perfectionists by nature. But seeking to make something better requires a freedom of thought to be able to process, here's what we're doing, here's the barrier to being faster at this or better at this or having a greater reach. Here's that barrier. And we need mental power to focus on, to look around that barrier to find, how can we get around this thing? How can we make this work? At least that's how I problem solve, and that's how a few people like me that I know personally problem solve. And problem solving is our nature. It really is. Like, if you want a good, productive worker that's going to be there on time, that sees being late or missing something scheduled as offensive, like, if you want somebody who is very dependable, hire a neurodivergent that's ADHD or autistic. It's built into us. But the less we have to mask, the more power we have to dedicate to those little things, those little barriers that are halting or slowing progress. And that first begins with creating a friendly, safe environment where we can approach you and pitch you a good idea. Or just look at our metrics and say, hey, achieve this, and we'll talk about your idea. And we'll start thinking of ways to achieve that. Or let's say you let us run free and say, hey, I want you to find something that's going to make this department better. We will. Our goal is to be as productive as possible. I have not met the exception. I'm sure it exists out there. But for somebody ADHD and autistic, I've done several TikTok videos under Autistic Commando and asked the same questions. And it was an overwhelmingly positive response with regard to, okay, yeah, I want to get it done. I'm going to think up this idea. Or I've pitched this idea and it got shut down. Or I've pitched this idea and got fired. That's actually been at least 2 comments that I've read. And that shouldn't be the case. If an idea is pitched by somebody who's thought it through, anybody should listen that represents management and is seeking to strengthen the company. I feel listening to good ideas is worthwhile because sometimes you can find a gem in those ideas. And other times you can poke holes in them and say, hey, can you overcome this? Can you overcome that? And then the process begins anew. Hiring ADHD and autistic individuals, as long as we have a safe environment, we will pretty much always be on time. if not early. And we will do our absolute best to stick to deadlines and to meet goals and quotas. Now, granted, not every job is meant for every person. Totally get that. But if you're watching this, then you probably have some experience in management or HR beyond a year. And so you've seen wonderful workers with wonderful metrics that might be a little bit weird if you've been in management for any length of time. They may act a little bit different. Creating an environment where neurodivergent individuals will not be bullied or will be heard if they are, and where they can be safe to where they don't have to spend all their time masking. Like, they're going to mask anyway because we know better. But if you can allow them to stim or to drop the mask more often, you will find much more productive workers. And these are workers who, again, modus operandi, are perfectionists by nature. We are trying to fix everything. It's our nature. We're trying to find a simpler and faster way to do it. Problem solving, I mean, I've been doing that since I was a little baby. Like, not joking, 3 years old. I beat a game of chess against the computer. Granted, it was on the easy setting, but by the age of 4, I was doing that, playing in Windows or in the DOS program. That was, I think, before Windows or right when Windows was like first coming out. And I'm not just speaking from experience. Again, Autistic Commando on TikTok. Um, I might pin a video on that, but if you scroll through far enough, it's about 2 months back, if I remember right, is when I was asking all of my 50,000 followers at the time, okay, what is your work ethic like? Again, it was overwhelmingly positive. So take this to heart and think about ways, or even ask us ways, that the environment can be better. If you know any of us that are working for you, like, what can we do to improve the environment? How can we make you more productive? That's a conversation worth having. Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe. This is part of a series, and I will see you next time.